Welcome to this episode of the Talent Forge, where together we are shaping workforce behaviors. I am excited to have this conversation. I think it's going to be one of the more fun ones. I think it's going to be a unique perspective on how we can shape culture and how we can bring joy and fun into the workplace. And to facilitate this conversation, I'd like to introduce you to Joel Hilchey and say welcome to the show, Joel.
It's great to be here. Thanks, Jay.
So, Joel, in looking at your work, I've seen everything from juggling to joggling. I've seen antics on the stage. I've seen just a beautiful message about fun and culture. I would love to know, how did you get to this space? Tell us a little bit about your story. What brought you into this space of shaping cultures and doing this type of work?
Sure. I studied engineering back in university, engineering physics, because as a kid, I was good at math and I liked Lego. Everybody assumed, oh, okay, you're going to be an engineer. But I was a performer, and everybody around the engineering world said, you don't seem like an engineer. Uh, my favorite part of university was taking my little juggling talent show thing to coffee houses. You know, people have bring their guitar and do that. Well, I had a juggling act, and I liked making people laugh, and I liked showing people that it was okay to be a little weird. Um, Along the way, I got involved with other like kind of team building stuff. I was a high ropes facilitator, learned a ton about group dynamics and how to facilitate great conversations. Um, I was a teaching assistant because I liked being an educator. So I now sort of think of myself, I was like an engineer, an entertainer, an educator, and now I've added in executive because soon out of university, I got a job doing database stuff, which was right up my alley. I'm sure you can imagine. It was awful, and I lasted like 4 weeks in the corporate world. Incited by a change of housing situation, I thought, am I going to double down on this, or yeah, do I leave? And I decided I want to go back to school, do a master's. So I typed up my resignation letter, and that was almost 20 years ago now. And I ended up in the world of training and development. Another mentor saw me and said, "Hey, you're to the 7 habits of highly effective people." I hadn't, embarrassingly, but he said, I've been looking for a replacement for myself. And he got me in as a trainer. And I started to work, especially in education for me with students and teachers. But over time, we developed more career skills workshops in general. And then we got busy enough that now our small team, Beanstalk Creative, looks like 8 facilitators. We've got 5 full-time staff, and we run events and do in-school workshops. So that's sort of my full-time gig, is I'm the CEO of that. And it's been a real journey from like solopreneur to, even a CEO of a small team. It's still manager. Gosh, I've made so many mistakes, Jay, and along the way, we also developed a great culture. And so I was still performing and entertaining and teaching, but now more and more people are asking, how do you create culture? And so that's sort of what I've become really interested in sharing. Making how to make things fun, how to create memorable experiences that really do make a shift in things. So that is my short journey along the way. Wrote a few books. Most recently, The 6.5 Habits of Highly Defective Bosses. Serious lessons for accidental managers. So it's been so fun to pull things together from different realms: creativity, leadership, retention, and culture. And it's been a great journey for me. Anyways, that's probably too much of my story,
Not
but
at
here we
all.
are.
Not at all. And I love it because from the moment that we started chatting, it has been one of those things where I've had a difficulty taking the smile off my face. It's one of those,
Right.
like, the energy that you bring, and we're going to talk a little bit about that because, when we talk about shaping workforce behaviors here, we know that culture has an impact on workforce behaviors, and we know that behavior has an impact on workforce culture.
Yes.
It's a
Cyclical.
symbiotic relationship, right?
Totally.
So, before we get in there, I just want to point out, I didn't realize this, but as you were telling your story, we actually have quite a few parallels. I've been doing this for 20 years
Ah,
myself.
yeah,
I was an educator in the education system. I was an entertainer a long, long time ago, different entertaining. I did improv, I did stage performance, I did
beautiful.
a number of things like that. And I'm now an executive and somebody that is running a company with all those. So we have a lot in common there, and it seems like we might be aligned on this fun thing. Let me ask this question point blank, because I think in so many cases, in the world of HR, in the world of leadership, in the world of management, I see a lot of seriousness and almost like this blockage,
Yeah,
to not step into their fun side or anything else. And now I imagine that they like a good movie or would love a good comedy show, but we don't see that in the
yeah.
workplace. So I'm going to ask two questions here, and it's going to kind of be a back to back. What do you think precludes us sometimes from
Mm.
bringing that sort of silly, fun, sometimes weird? Because I'm a giant, and the audience knows this if they've listened. I'm a giant nerd. I love Dungeons and Dragons, and I love behavioral science,
Yes.
right? Like, why do we stop ourselves from bringing our true selves? And what
Mm.
have you done to inspire people to bring some of those pieces into the workplace culture?
Mm. Great questions. Okay, so my general answer is just because you take your work seriously doesn't mean you have to take yourself seriously.
Oh my gosh.
Like that, maybe I can share that the most the most productive teams that I have been on have been immensely enjoyable and full of laughter along the way, and we're joking our way through this thing. I've been involved with different charity organizations before. I got involved with Engineers Without Borders as a student. And I'm still involved now, a proud donor, and we just had a 25th year at Engineers Without Borders national conference in Canada. My mentor is now the CEO of Engineers Without Borders USA, Boris Martin, amazing guy. And one of the things that attracted me to the organization was that they were all driven people trying to make the world better, but we'd get together and watch a movie and somebody brought cookies. I was like, these are my kind of people, I want to be here. And and it felt joyful to do this. And I think that there's this perception that fun is the opposite of work. And that's not true. Like fun, well, I mean, there's sort of two ways to think about fun. Like the noun, I guess, like, oh, that is fun. That is like frivolity, you know? And okay, that is different by definition than like the important thing. But if you're having fun, that's like pleasure and joy. And you can do that with your work. You can be purposeful and playful at the same time. And so that's my big kind of big picture, pitch to people is that we need to combine. Here, let me describe it this way for people watching. If everybody wants fun, and I'm writing on the sky here, I know, and they want things that are meaningful. Time for a new marker. If you do things that are only meaningful, life is kind of heavy and overwhelming. If you do things that are only fun, life is frivolous and kind of empty in the end. But there is this magic area in the middle of things that are both fun and meaningful. So I call it fiendingful.
Uh,
I don't know. I
that's
don't
solid.
call it meaningful. Although I did invent another word recently. Plagiarism. I made that up. Um, okay, never mind. So fun and meaningful. What I actually call that little space in the middle of the Venn diagram is fulfilling. If and I have come to believe that that is super important. People are naturally motivated. They're more creative, more collaborative, more open-minded. They're more resilient when we're doing things that are fun and meaningful. So sometimes people think like, oh, we got a serious problem. We better get serious. But I think that fun is an undervalued resource.
So I'm gonna lean into one of the things that you said, taking the work seriously but not taking yourself. Like you said that, I gave you
Yes.
the clap. And here's why. In 2009, I had joined a young person's leadership development organization, and
Mm,
I ended up connecting with somebody that ended up being one of my absolute best friends. So I'll even call him out loud, Mike Kanda, one of my guys, right?
cool.
That year, and I had just joined. I won't go into all of the details, but that year, it was like 3 weeks after I joined, that an email chain comes out and it starts accusing the treasurer, the previous treasurer, of embezzling money.
Uh-oh.
We come to find out that they had embezzled literally almost all of the funds from this charitable
Oh
organization,
my
like
goodness.
$10,000, and all that's left is $300. And that causes this major fracture. People are leaving, people are yelling at each other. Come to find out, another person had some kind of criminal record that was being hidden, that all of a sudden that pops out because of this fighting.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
the organization owned a building. Well, it wasn't related to the organization, but there was shots fired at the building in this same, like all of these things, these massive, massive crises, massive
Yeah.
public relations. We were in the paper constantly just getting crushed.
Ugh.
We rebuilt that organization. So we had it was a membership based organization. It had like
Yeah.
30 or 40 members. It dropped down to like four. I was one of the four. He was my colleague was one of the four. We're sitting in his basement. We're having cake and whiskey and laughing and literally laughing. Like, how absurd is this? Like, what are we in? And we
Yeah.
vowed in that moment, we're going to take this work seriously, but we're not going to take ourselves seriously. And like, because I mean, it was so heavy. We
Yes.
ended up within 2 years, we ended up being like one of the top organizations in the entire state and the entire country
Wow.
because of the culture that was built about literally being serious about what we got done and just like really making the impact,
Yes.
but having fun while we were doing it. So what you said, honestly, just like audience, if you take nothing away from this conversation, you've got to be able to incorporate, and I love how you framed this, Joel, purposefulness or purpose and
Yeah.
playfulness. That was
Yeah.
brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, you're too kind. I listened to, oh gosh, I can't remember the name now. Oh, there's somebody who has a great acronym about talking and conversations, and the acronym is TALK, and I should know who it is, but I don't. We can look it up after. And the L is levity. And you've probably been in conversations. So this is if we're trying to make it practical for, managers or if you're having a tough feedback conversation. One of the beautiful things that you can offer as a gift is like moments of levity.
Mhm.
Both sides, everybody, whether you're giving feedback or receiving it, like if you can offer a moment of joy, of laughter, of personal connection, of humanity, then that makes everything go so much smoother, you know? Sometimes one way to do that in a tough situation is just to acknowledge that it's a tough situation. You know, if you come in and just by saying calling out whatever is happening. Gosh, this was not the conversation I thought I'd be having this morning. I'll tell you that. Start with that. And well, what did you think you were going to be doing? Oh, I thought I was going to be walking the dog. And I don't know, by naming something that's hard, that's like a really practical technique because then the other person goes, yeah, totally, me too. Like, I didn't think I'd be here either. Well, here we are. What do
Here
we
we
do?
are.
Um,
When
yeah.
COVID, it's funny you say that because when COVID hit and we had like our executive leadership meeting, I mean, COVID, and I'm sure that you know this too, no speeches,
uh,
no engagements, no more training, everything stopped.
yes.
And, from us, we lost $200,000 in the first 2 weeks.
Wow.
Just like, this is not good. And when we had our executive leadership meeting, literally, I started the meeting by going, well, this sucks. And I kind of like, I giggled. Like, I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I have no control over this. It was just like,
Right.
sucks. We're going to have to figure some stuff out, team. But I like
Right.
in that energy and in that laughing, it does. It all of a sudden is like, yeah, this does suck. All right, let's figure this out now. Like we've acknowledged it.
Yes.
So I love what you were saying there.
Yes. You asked about, how do you bring more fun into the culture as well. Maybe the first thing, just as a disclaimer, is to say fun is not the same for everybody. Like, not everybody believes that, I don't know, imagine you're like, let's have a party in the office and we're all going to have confetti and we're going to go around and say what we love about each person in the office, and that'll be great. That's some people's worst nightmare. They don't want that at all. I just, so just recognize that everybody has a different idea of what fun is.
We're gonna
And
do
that,
some fun icebreakers. And
yes,
half of the room's like, yes, and half of the room's
right,
like, no.
right, right. One of the ways to make something less fun is, I think, to call it an icebreaker. I just immediately people are like, oh man, I don't know about, right? It's like it's much better to just say, hey, I want to try something. Let's would let's try this activity, or try this experiment. A lot of people like doing experiments. Language matters with this kind of thing. Another way to make things not fun is to make them mandatory.
Mandatory fun is not fun. I agree.
Mandatory fun, that's like not a thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I've experienced this. I remember being at, a staff retreat day and hearing people grumble and groan as we're playing mini putt. Like, and because for them that day they wanted to be in the office, or they didn't want to be doing that with these people. I don't know. But it felt, for them it was contrived, and like, what, something about that experience was not good for them. So don't make it mandatory, and maybe like ask, okay, what do people like to do? That's a good thing to ask on your team. Um, One thing that when people say, "Oh, this is fun," they're often talking more about like the how they do things rather than the specific activities themselves. So, foosball tables or ping pong tables or something, that's fun if people like playing ping pong or things. But what might be more relevant, if you have an office, if you're one of those people who still have an office where people go, which is a sizable chunk, is uh, think about like, well, it's available for people, but what they probably find fun is the personal connection they have. Why does everybody hate going into the office 2 days a week? It's not because they don't like their coworkers. The excuse I hear is they say, I go in and nobody's there. I'm told to go in, but nobody is there. We're not doing anything. I could have done this at home. But if I go in and, oh, we've got a connection day. It's nice to see people. That was fun. That was a good day. The I think we need to be more intentional about how we structure the time when we're together. And that's why one of the reasons why I'm interested in really like helping people create experiences, and almost like curate experiences or moments for people, and say, how do we help people have more of those connection moments, or more of those moments where they're pleasantly surprised with something.
I think that's so interesting because, like, even something with the ping pong table or the foosball table,
Yeah.
what I often see is, maybe you have somebody that likes ping pong, like foosball, and they're playing. But where I actually end up seeing the most joy are the people that are standing around it. They're not even playing, but it's almost
Yes.
like it becomes this, like, hey, I picked a team and we're having fun because we're jeering each other, cheering each other on.
Yes.
And there's these conversations that are happening organically. So even though there's two people that are dialed in and playing the game and being competitive, the people that seem to surround it are the ones that are almost bringing more of the joy. It seems like to me.
Yeah. Well, okay. So one of the principles I have is like to try to have intentional in between times.
Mm.
And I was thinking, I don't know if I've got good language for this yet, but I was remembering back to some trips, and I remember the people that I was on the trips with. And I have the photos, but I was thinking like the photo was this like memory, but actually the relationships were built on the way to the photo op.
Mm. Yep.
And I think work is a lot like that. We're working on this project, and like completing it feels good, but the relationships are being built on the way, on the journey. And so in between times is a really general term, but I think, it applies in so many spots. It's like the time between when we were doing things intentionally. So how do you make it more intentional without seeming like a new thing? One example is like just say you have a meeting, a board meeting, I don't know, a retreat day, something. There's usually a time at the beginning where people are gathering and they're coming in. We haven't started yet, but what do? They grab their coffee, they sit down, they maybe see a friend they haven't seen in a while. Hey, how's your sister doing? I heard she was in the hospital. How's she doing now? They reconnect as humans, and those personal relationships are super valuable to people. It also often happens that this is where people make jokes with each other. They're talking about it's small talk at first, that's normal, but we elevate through that small talk to then be able to ask the more meaningful questions. Hey, last year you said that you were going through a tough time. How are things now? I think these in between times are what we lose often on hybrid Zoom meetings, where it's a black screen and it's just at 2 o'clock on the dot. You come on and okay, hi everybody. I know everybody hates to be online, so let's jump right into the agenda. Steve, how's that project coming along? And it feels jarring
Yeah.
because we didn't have the in between time. One more example, maybe this is maybe for people who are interviewing or even just getting to know colleagues. I talked with a CEO once who said, I will always, whenever I'm interviewing, I will always ask, and he developed this from when he wasn't a CEO. I'll always ask if somebody wants a coffee or a tea. And even if they don't, we'll walk down to the kitchen together because I want to see how they are when they don't think they're being interviewed. That's when people show up as their true selves. As soon as we're across the table, now we're playing a game. Now we're filling roles. And that's not where relationships are built, and that's not where people's authentic values come out either. So this is sort of strategic. I think we can use these in between times strategically, and this is why I think the foosball table or the water cooler, it's a gathering place for people, for them to have other conversations. And
Yeah.
it feels like it's off topic, but they're building connection.
So I mean, it's kind of spot on with the research that was done by Daniel Coyle from the Culture Code about that
Yes.
collisions, right? The collisions that we create. And as you were talking about this, that's actually the tactic that that CEO is taking of walking down and grabbing a coffee. That's actually something that we have taught in
Yes.
the courses that we've done for law enforcement. Like when you're sitting across a table, you're immediately adversarial and the defensive posturing is coming up. Take a walk, take them down,
Yes.
do this, show them something, and just have a conversation. You'll probably get a lot more information than you would expect. So you're absolutely, I mean, the science on that is you're dialed in on that for sure. But I think the thing that you inspired me to think of a different place
Mm.
exactly what you're talking about. I, from a business perspective, I know that you've done this, and I'm sure that everybody that's listening in today has been to a networking event. And you see
Uh,
people like when it's like the mandatory networking portion, you kind of see people's energy just drain.
yes.
You look at them beforehand when it was like, okay, it's just kind of open and people are grabbing coffee or breakfast or whatever it is. And there's
Yes.
joy, there's conversation, people are bouncing ideas off, people feel comfortable. It's like watching kindergarten. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we have to get to work and really do the networking. And everybody,
Right.
oh, I don't want to do network. I don't like networking.
Yeah.
Like you've been networking for the last half hour really effectively. So uh, I really like what you had to say there because I think as for the trainers, the coaches, and the leaders out there that are trying to do this, mandatory is not going to work. But if you create an environment where people can
Yes.
come together, you're going to start seeing some of that interaction and then reward it, show why
Yes.
it's important, create space for it. So I really appreciate what you're saying on that. And I do have a question that I kind of want to follow up with on this.
Yeah.
Uh, some of the experiences, and maybe I kind of intuitively picked this up, whether it was from the stage and performing or whether it was, those first trainings. When people laughed, and I realized this quickly, I'm like, all right, I'm going to bring out the first thing, if I'm doing a talk on dealing with difficult people, I say, how many of you in the audience are dealing with a difficult person? Everybody raise, most of the
Y-
people
y-
raise their hand, almost everybody. And
Yes.
I say, if you're not raising your hand, you're probably somebody else's difficult person. Everybody starts laughing. And then it's
Yes.
just like, and now they're dialed in. And now it's like, okay, we're here to have a little bit of fun, learn some things. So, my question for you in shaping culture, in shaping workforce behaviors, and sort of obviously the theme of this podcast, what has your experience been when you've introduced maybe fun into a joyless zone, or you've
Yeah.
created the conditions for people to be like, okay, it's okay for me to play a little bit? How has that helped in seeing a transformational aspect inside of an organization?
Yeah. The main way that I think it shows up is that people are more honest. You get better conversations, and so everybody in the organization has a unique perspective to bring, right? From your frontline people to the managers who are overseeing, patterns of things and data. Everybody has a unique perspective. The executives who have a vision or who see, departmental things and big picture priorities. Um, if they won't talk honestly with each other, you lose the benefit of the team,
Well
right? The
said.
biggest benefit of a team is not just that you've got more hands to do the work, it's that you've got more minds to do the thinking. And you harness some of that sort of wisdom of crowds by making sure everybody has a way to contribute to the conversation. When people have fun, or when people feel so fun signals safety.
Mhm.
Fun also signals learning. There is a great thing done. Oh gosh, I should know it off the top of my head. The research said it took something like, I don't know, 400 repetitions to learn a new skill, unless it was taught through play, in which case it takes 12, or some silly thing like this. That brute
Play.
force,
we,
you know?
we learn this and it's interesting.
Yes,
It's not just humans. Animals teach and learn through play. They play,
yes,
they play grab, and tussle and
yes,
tumble with their parents, and that's helping them learn their hunting skills or their
yes,
defensive skills. Yeah, I mean, play is a huge part of our childhood development,
yes.
and it's almost like like when we grow up, we forget that. And then like, no, I can't be silly at work.
Right, right. And people confuse, they think if you're being silly, maybe you're not taking the work seriously. No, no, no. It's you got to like disconnect those things by signaling safety and play and some fun, and we're going to laugh together and we're human, right? What is it about being human? We make mistakes sometimes. We're not perfect. And that shows that, hey, I don't have all the answers here, but maybe we can figure it out. What do you think about this? And you get better conversations. Sometimes when I'm working with management teams, I'll do something silly like, okay, let's bring a little ball and everybody gets in a group and just you bat this ball around and you try to hit it 12 times or something. And then you start introducing new rules and okay, give a high five to the person on your left after you hit the ball. And it gets chaotic. And people are giggling away. And this is what I learned from the days of facilitation is that it's almost never about the activity itself. It's about the conversation that it creates afterwards. So then you ask a question like, hey, okay, how did that activity represent work on our team? And immediately somebody will go, oh, well, I mean, we were all trying to just grab the ball. Nobody was talking to each other. And man, I didn't even pay attention to what you were doing over there. And they'll start a conversation. And if you just ask the question, hey, what are some of your team's flaws and your personal tendencies when it comes to sharing work? You're going to get a totally different response, and it's going to be a flat response. So, this is sort of retreat based, I suppose, but what I really love are little structures or activities, games, tools that you can use. Any manager can facilitate a meeting in a slightly different way to get more conversation flowing.
Yeah, I really like that, Joel. And I see that. Is this one of those things where you need the first brave person to step into fun, then the second
Yeah,
person, and then the third person? And because like, and I think about this a number of times that I've heard somebody say like, "Oh, I don't like that," and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself like, "What? You don't like fun? Like you don't like play or whatever?" or I've even heard people go, "Well, I'm not the fun one." And like,
Right.
I hear that, and it's one of those where do you see something like kind of a critical mass effect? All right, this leader is stepping into fun. Now this leader made it okay, and there's
Yes.
is it build or is it something that is,
Yes, yes, all of the above. It's like a living, growing thing. It's like culture, as you talked about, this kind of feedbacky, So our experiences shape the culture, but then the culture reinforces and helps create the experiences for people. M- You've probably seen this as a marketing person too. You ever hear the thing, you're not trying to convert anybody, you're just trying to telegraph what you believe in so that the people who believe as you do will find you.
yep, absolutely.
And I think that this is true. I don't know if every organization can be a fun organization. It's maybe not in the DNA of some organizations. That said, there are people, I think everybody wants to have some fun. And if you can find, well, what is fun for this group? Maybe fun is like working 80 hours a week for some people. That is purposeful and playful, and they love it. They just are driven by that. For some people, fun is having great connections with their coworkers or honest conversations or being able to like have a moment where they introduce their dog on the Zoom call. Like that's fun for some people. Like, oh, we got a great culture. uh, Culture is much more about the small moments than it is about large statements. A lot of people think like values on the wall, like that's our culture. Um, or they think, well, I like the people.
It's the behaviors in the halls.
Correct. The
Um,
behaviors when nobody's watching,
yep.
when it's like how are decisions actually made here, that's what the values are like. And so you can watch if people buy into the fun activity. Well, we went mini putting and everyone had a miserable time, and then they went back to the office and they were probably miserable there too. But like, or if the culture says like, well, we just try to make things fun. There are certain people who definitely have an outsized impact on things. You probably think of everybody listening. Think of the teams you've been on, and you can probably name a person in like a meeting that like always chimes in with a joke just at the right moment, or but also is insightful. But it's almost like their role on the team is this like moment of levity, moment of levity, moment of levity, and they keep propelling the group forward that way. I think there are people who do the opposite, who shut that down as well. And this is where the managers come in. Managers need to find what is killing the culture and what is building it and helping it grow and thrive. Bad bosses kill culture and they drive away your top performers. The good news, I mean, in writing this book, the so many people have stories. 80% of people identify as accidental managers. They didn't plan to be a leader. They weren't gunning for it. It's just like, oh, you seem to know what you're doing. Like the other guy just left. Like, why don't you lead the team?
You're good at this. Yeah,
Yes,
you're good at this engineering thing. Now go lead people, a very different science.
totally different people. And
Yeah.
so if you're listening and like, oh, yeah, I'm an accidental manager, you don't have to be perfect at it. But in my experience, somebody who approaches, their role with both fun and meaning, they're going to get people on board because they say, gosh, I'm not perfect at this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to try my best. What do you need? What do you think? Tell me what you want. What do you think this role actually is? And you'll have better conversations and be more human about it. Um, and you probably won't be terrible. You'll probably make some mistakes, but gosh, if there's one big thing, it's pay attention to the people. If there's two big things, it's pay attention to the people and pay attention to what is either inspiring or driving away your top performers, because every team has some key people on it. And if your actions as a manager are driving away those people, oof, it's tough to win a championship without superstars. Not everybody has to be a superstar, and championship teams are not all superstars, but it's tough to win without a few. So pay attention to that. I don't know. Have you seen that as well? Those kind of like key
Oh, yeah.
people, there's sort of butterfly effect, things that happen. The small moments create big ripples.
So there's some incredible there's some incredible research that was done where basically they took organizations, they took research subjects, put them into a team, and then they
Uh-huh.
put a researcher into the team. And the researcher's job, their only job, was to disrupt the team with negativity,
Yeah.
kind of like sighing and everything else like
Eye
that. And they
rolling,
were trying
yes.
to see, like, okay, this group didn't have the researcher. How did they perform? This group did have the researcher trying to subvert it. And there was one outlier. And they went back because one team, despite having the researcher, was really, really successful. And they were like, what's this anomaly? They went back and they looked and they just and they found somebody in that group that is exactly like what you're saying. Whenever
Ah,
this person went negative, the person, the subject, the was
a
like,
key player.
yeah, just brought everybody back up. And the
Ah,
researcher even reported, the researcher that was sent in to be subversive was like, I found myself like pausing before I was doing my job because I was like, this person was so positive, and like even if I was being ruthless and mean, they'd be like, "Oh, that's hilarious! That's everybody listen to that. That's so
yes.
funny. You're so right." And it was just like they brought this joy and completely threw the researcher off their game, and that team was successful.
Wow.
And it's so what you're saying there's yeah, and I see this the culture of an organization is the sum of all of the behaviors. And
Yes.
behaviors are patterns and behaviors are infectious. So if I mistreat you, you mistreat me, we go back and forth and it gets really toxic and negative. If I treat you with respect, you treat me with respect and we go back and forth, it gets really positive. If you've got those influencers that are embedded in an organization that are driving some of that positive, pro-social
Yes.
connected behavior, it stands to reason that you're probably going to have a decent culture. You lose that influencer, you're losing a big part of your culture.
That's huge. What a great insight. Not only the productive people are your key people, there are culture key people who are like linchpins. Yeah, there. That's fascinating. And if people are listening and they're thinking, well, my organization, we're okay. Where do you start? My suggestion, a lot of people think, well, start with the big things, or let's start by restating our values. They take sort of an informational approach to it. And it's true that the values matter, but what matters more are the moments that demonstrate those values. Um, and
Also,
it's shown up much more in the little things, but big things are good demonstrations of those values. So if you've got a big annual retreat or annual meeting, yes, you should put time and energy into planning that, but also put time and energy into how you run your Tuesday morning meeting. How do you want that to feel? Because those are going to be repeated. They're going to be regular. From my perspective, this is part of what I share with people and teach people, is I think there are three big leverage points that they can access for changing or shifting the culture. The first is onboarding. The second are meetings, and the third is recognition. The way, just because first impressions are so important, onboarding matters so much. Meetings they happen regularly. They are, as far as most people are concerned, if you say, what's it like to work here? Most people imagine a meeting of what's it like to be in a meeting with this person or my colleagues. And recognition is the thing that it's like the fuel,
the
you know,
reward, the
it's the
dopaminergic hit. Yep.
Yes, we all want to contribute and we want to feel good that, our skills are valued and how the culture honors uh, people. Yeah, I talked with a leader at a large organization. I can't say which one, but she said, uh, we know how to party, but we don't know how to celebrate.
Mm.
I thought, oh, that is so true. They can have the
It's
big
like,
annual event and
yep,
everyone goes and, parties it up, but they don't know how to honor and celebrate the achievements of we did a thing that mattered.
really.
And you matter and we're grateful for you. So those are three little like leverage points that we can talk again about it. I know our time is perilously close to finishing here.
Well, and Joel, this conversation has been so fun. I think we could have probably carried this on for 2 hours.
Totally, totally. New long form podcast.
That's right.
Uh,
If the audience wanted to get in touch with you, how would they reach out to you, Joel?
the best way through my website, joelhilchey.com. And actually the you can try if you like your very own self-assessment, the highly defective boss assessment
Mm.
at joelhilchey.com/bosses.
Okay.
And of course, you can get the book wherever you like if you want. You should all buy it in triplicate. But it's
That the 6.5 habits of highly defective bosses, is
the
that correct?
6.5 habits of highly defective bosses. Not because you're defective, oh listener. No, no, because you're accidental and we're all trying to be a little less terrible.
Of course. We'll make sure that's in the show notes. And Joel, I just want to say thank you for your time, your energy. And like I said, I haven't stopped smiling literally since we started this conversation. This has not only been fun, but I know it is chocked full of great opportunities for this audience to walk into their next meeting, to their next onboarding session, to their next whatever it is, and create the conditions for connection. And that's really what I've been hearing today. So thank you so much for being here and sharing that.
It's been a real privilege. Keep taking your work seriously, but you can go easy on yourself. It's great. Thanks so much, Jay. This has been it really has been a great privilege to chat with you.
I feel the same. So, and thank you, audience, for tuning into this episode of the Talent Forge, where together we are shaping workforce behaviors.